They say the stars remember the names of those who loved beyond time. In the hidden valley of Larethien, where moonlight kissed the silver leaves, lived an elf named Noorah, last daughter of the ancient house of Alendir. Her heart had not aged, though 1,000 winters had passed, for she was waiting for one who never returned. Every night she stood by the river, whispering the same name, Kael. It drifted with the wind, carried by waters that once bore his reflection. He was mortal, she was not. Yet their souls had touched like dawn meeting dusk, brief, radiant, impossible to forget. Long ago, when shadows spread across the west and the men of the south called for aid, Kael had ridden with sword and courage, promising he would return afore the first snow. But the snows had come and gone for 1,000 years. Noorah's kin had long departed over the sea. The forests grew quiet, the halls of her people empty. Yet she stayed, not out of duty, but hope. Hope, she said, is the last song of love. At times she thought she heard his voice in the wind, calling her name from beyond the veils of time. Other nights, she saw a figure in her dreams, standing at the gates of dawn, waiting for her to follow. But mortals do not return. Even the valor, it is said, cannot bind the threads of time once they are cut. Still, her heart refused to forget. If this story touched your heart, leave a rose in the comments, so Noorah knows she is not waiting alone. One evening, beneath the light of 2 moons, she walked the forest paths that led to the river's edge. There, among the reeds, she found something buried in the earth, a blade, rusted but familiar, the sword of Kael. She lifted it in silence. The metal hummed faintly, as if awakening from a long dream, and as her tears touched the hilt, a single whisper filled the air, Noorah. The voice was his. The river began to shimmer, turning from silver to deep gold. Visions rippled across the water, Kael standing in fields of light, reaching out to her. He smiled the same smile she remembered from 1,000 years ago. Her heart surged with both joy and dread. Kael, she whispered, if this be a dream, let me never wake. But the voice replied, it is not a dream. The door between us opens once more. Then the vision darkened. Storm clouds rolled across the sky. Kael's image flickered, pain carved across his face. They do not let me go, he said, but soon you will be asked to choose. The light vanished. The sword fell silent once more, but in her hand, something new appeared. A black feather, warm to the touch. An omen, whispered the old tales, from the realm between worlds. Noorah returned to her chamber, trembling. The sword lay beside her bed, the feather upon her heart. And as she closed her eyes, she heard Kael's final words echo within her mind. When the 1,000th star falls, I will return, but the price must be yours to bear. Outside, a single star streaked across the heavens and vanished. And in the valley of Larethien, for the first time in an age, the wind carried 2 voices, one of this world and one beyond. The 1,000th star had begun to fall, and with it, so too began the end, or the beginning, of her waiting. When Noorah awoke, the world was changed. The moon hung lower in the sky, and the river whispered in a language she had never heard. The 1,000th star had fallen, and with it, the boundaries between life and death began to fade. Every shadow seemed alive. The trees bent slightly as she passed, as though bowing to something greater than time itself. And there, by the old willow, where she once kissed Kael goodbye, stood a figure in tattered armor, his back to her, his sword gleaming faintly in the light of dawn. Kael. Her voice trembled like a forgotten melody. He turned. His face was unchanged, mortal, yet untouched by death. Time had carved no wrinkles, only memory in his eyes. I came back, he said softly, but not as I was. I am bound to the veil between worlds. The gods have given me one dawn, one day, to see you before I fade again. Noorah reached for him, and her fingers passed through the air as if touching smoke. Still, warmth lingered, a warmth she remembered, like sunlight on her skin. If this story touched your soul, leave a rose below, and subscribe for more tales where love never dies. They walked together through the valley, speaking softly of things long gone, the scent of autumn rain, the laughter by the fire, the promises that had outlived empires. Every word was a fragile miracle. Kael stopped beside the river. "The world of men is gone," he whispered, "but I felt your calling across the centuries. It was your heart that brought me back." Noorah lowered her gaze. "Then stay," she begged. "Let the world fade. Let time break. Only stay." But Kael smiled, that same mortal smile she once fell in love with. To stay would mean your end. He reached toward her heart. "There is a path," he said, "a bridge of souls, but the choice is yours. You may follow me beyond the light, or remain here, eternal, and let me fade forever." The river roared with energy. Stars began to fall again, one by one, their reflections trembling in the water. Noorah felt her heart beat like thunder. "I have waited for you," she whispered. "Through ages, through silence. What is eternity without love?" Kael's voice broke. "And what is love if it steals eternity?" The bridge shimmered brighter, calling. Kael began to fade once more, his voice trembling. "When the last star falls, the gate will close. Choose, Noorah." She stepped forward, one foot upon the bridge. Instantly, the world shifted. She saw glimpses of what lay beyond. Endless meadows, eternal dawn, and Kael's hand waiting for hers. But behind her, the valley called, the forest of her ancestors, the promise she made to guard it until the end of time. Tears fell like rain. "Must love always cost so much?" she whispered. Kael's fading voice replied, "Only the truest love is tested by time itself." She raised the black feather in her hand. It began to burn. Soft blue fire dancing along its edges, and the bridge shuddered as if alive. The choice was upon her. One step would lead to forever, the other to loss eternal. The wind fell silent. Even the stars seemed to hold their breath, as Noorah stood upon the bridge of souls, between life and forever, between love and duty. Kael's form flickered before her like a dying flame, fading with every heartbeat. The black feather burned brighter in her hand. Its flame was gentle, not to destroy, but to reveal. And within its light she saw visions of all she had lost, and all she might yet save. The voice of the river, ancient, deep and sorrowful, spoke within her mind. "If you cross, the forest will fall silent forever. The light of your people will fade." But another voice, soft, human and full of longing, called from beyond the veil, "Noorah, come home." It was Kael. His words trembled like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Her knees weakened. 1,000 years of waiting pressed upon her heart. The pain, the loneliness, the endless nights, all of it could end. If she took one more step, she turned her gaze to the valley behind her, the land of silver leaves and quiet rivers. There she saw not emptiness, but life. Flowers had bloomed again. The forest whispered songs of renewal. Then she understood. Love, true and eternal, was not meant to possess. It was meant to guide, to protect, to remember. Her love had already defied time. Now, it would protect it. If this story touched your soul, leave a rose in the comments, so the stars will know you walked this bridge with her. Noorah lifted the feather high. Its light expanded, enveloping both realms. Kael reached out, his form dissolving into golden dust. Their eyes met one last time. "Do not grieve," he said, "for wherever light touches the river, I am with you." Then he was gone, not vanished, but transformed into the very essence of the dawn. The bridge of souls began to fade. Noorah fell to her knees, tears mixing with the light around her. But her sorrow was no longer empty. It was full, complete, like the end of a beautiful song. When the dawn finally broke, she awoke beside the river, the sword of Kael beside her, gleaming anew, as if reforged by love itself. The feather was gone. Only a single white rose rested on her chest. From that day forth, the valley of Larethien was no longer silent. Every dawn, the river sang with a voice that none could explain. Soft, human, filled with devotion, and sometimes, when the light was right, villagers swore they saw two figures walking by the water. Some say the elf found peace. Others believe she waits still, not in sorrow, but in promise. For love, once kindled, never truly dies. It merely changes form until it is found again. And when you look upon the morning star, remember Noorah, the elf who waited 1,000 years, and in doing so taught even the gods what love truly means. Subscribe for more tales of love, loss, and light from Middle Earth. If her story moved you, let the stars know you were here.